want to talk to you about how you add a head and some really important things that you're going to need to know in terms of adding a head. So I've made my body here by joining two pinch pots together, and I want to put a head onto my animal. I don't want to stick a head directly on top because I don't want it to look like a snowman. I want it to look like it's got some kind of shoulders. I want it to look like it's got some kind of movement in it. Now the animal that I'm joining is, I'm going to do a bird head. So my goal is to kind of get this kind of shape. So this, as you can see, is like a pinch pot. So I'm just going to make a little pinch pot and then I'm going to attach a solid beak on the end of it. But what we have here is we have a pinch pot and a pinch pot. We need to make sure that we don't create any air bubbles in our work. So what we're going to do is we're going to make sure that there's a hole between these areas, and I'll show you what I mean. So this is kind of where I'm going. You can see that I've done one. This is different clay from what you're using. This is a white raku, although it looks quite brown actually. But that's kind of where I'm going with that. So what I did was, first of all, I started with this shape and I kind of banged it down very, very gently to get it flat on the base so that it was going to sit. Okay, so I kind of tapped it down gently so it was going to sit nice and gently on the, it was actually had a base to sit on. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to create another pinch pot for the head. Okay, so dampening my hands, you know how this goes now. If I wanted a long head, I'd need to change the shape of how I'm starting my pinch pot. So I'd make it longer if I wanted it to be long and skinny, or if I wanted it to be round like this, I'm going to start with a rounder kind of a shape. Okay, so all done in my hands. I'll move this aside for a minute. All done in my hands, thumb through the center, pinching from the bottom, dampening my hands regularly, aiming for walls that are the same. Okay, I can push out through here, making sure that I'm supporting it on this side as I do it. So everything that I do, I'm making sure if I'm working on the inside, I'm supporting on the outside. Okay, I've got my pinch pot and this is roughly where I want the head to go. Okay, so I might even open it out a little bit wider through the edge here. What would I do? Think about what I would do. So I've got to join two surfaces together. What's the important thing? I need to make sure that they're not going to fall off. There's no shortcuts in clay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to score. And I also need to score where it's going to join. So let's kind of look at it. Okay. Made a little indent there. I'm going to score here as well. And I can smooth out areas later on. So that's going to join on to there, okay, to make that kind of a creature. But if I join this on like here, I'm going to have a little air bubble here and an air bubble here. Eventually we're going to get rid of this air bubble here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a tool. I might use a loop tool for this, but you could push in a pencil. And I'm simply going to take a little bit of that clay out. Okay. So I now have one big air bubble, and eventually I will put a hole through the bottom so that that air can escape. Alright, so I've got my pinch pots here. Now if I wanted to, before I actually join them, I could add a beak on, or I could do this first. It's up to you. For the sake of this, I'm just going to show you how I'm slipping once. I've scored twice, slipping once, making sure that it looks like I've got movement, placing it on, and we know that we score, slip, smooth. So I'm going to use my fingers. Dampening my hands will make it easier. Not catching any air bubbles in there, because we know that air bubbles are the enemy. If I catch an air bubble when it goes into the kiln, that air will expand. It won't have anywhere to go, so it will make an enormous crack in your work, or it could blow your work apart to get that air out. Look at how I'm supporting. None of this is done on the table. It's all in my hands. Using my fingers to draw that clay down. Dampening my hands again, because my hands are getting very dry. Using my thumb, I'm going to push this part of the clay up. And my goal here is I want that kind of neck part to be fairly seamless, don't I? I want it to look like it's unified, like it's all part of the one artwork. Okay, and I can use my hand to draw out the shape, manipulate the shape using my thumbs, etc. Okay, and now I can use extra clay that I've got to pinch out a beak shape. I can use solid clay here for the beak because it's not very wide, okay? I couldn't have a solid head. It wouldn't dry properly. And of course, I would score, slip, smooth, joining that on. And I could also use this part I've just cut off and make that the bottom part of the beak. Having it open and wide, or joining it in together if I wanted to. And that's how we add a head, making sure that we've created an air bubble in between. So important. If you don't do that, if you have air bubbles that are connected here, we'll have to put a hole through the neck or something like that, which we don't want to do. Okay,